Ruin My Childhood.
Welcome to Ruin My Childhood, the podcast where we decide if some things are better left in the past. I'm Kat.
I'm Mike.
And today we are talking about The Land Before Time.
Ooh.
The first one.
The first one.
Not the subsequent
13 sequels. I think there's 14 of them now.
Ugh, man, that is way too many sequels. I don't care who you are.
I'm pretty sure there was a TV show as well.
What?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there was a TV show as well at some point.
Good God, does it end with something catastrophic?
Funny enough, when we get to our comments from our listeners, there's a comment about that, so we'll wait for that.
Oh, good.
Just off the bat, this one's going to be a little bit difficult for me to talk about what I remember because, like you mentioned, there are a million sequels to this movie, and I have 3 younger siblings, and they loved this franchise, and I watched, I think, the first 8 of them. And so it's going to be kind of hard to remember which is which. But what I remember about this particular one is I think this one is really dark. And I think this one went to theaters. I don't think any of the other ones did. And I just remember the animation being darker. And the newer ones were like really bright and happy. And this one was a little bit depressing in certain points of the movie. And the only thing I can really remember for sure that I know is in this film is that they're being stalked by like a T-Rex because they got separated by their family. And then there's one scene where Ducky, I think her name is Ducky, and then there's a pterodactyl guy named Petrie. Ducky's like on Petrie's head, and he says, I smell Ducky. And that's really the only thing I remember about this first one.
The only thing I remember about this is that it was better than the sequel, and then I didn't watch any of the other movies after that. But I don't remember actually really liking it as a kid.
I loved it. I watched it. So this was the only VHS that my grandmother on my dad's side had for like kids. And I watched it all the time over and over and over again when I was at her house. So I definitely remember liking this movie and having a fond feeling of it. Oh, Tree Stars.
You gonna let me talk?
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to bring that up too, but you like to cut me off, so...
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's a thing. All that talking. But I didn't really like this movie, and I remember all of my friends were obsessed with it, so every time I went to someone's house, they would make me watch this movie. So I've probably seen it upwards of 30 times.
So it's this and Space Jam that you were forced to watch as a kid and didn't like him?
Yeah, man. It's such a bummer. I think it's because I was actually really into dinosaurs when I was a kid, and I was like, none of this is right. None of these dinosaurs were around at the same time, and the migration is all wrong, and yeah, it was troubling.
Well, that's the thing with all dinosaur movies, is that they do intermix. Like, it's something, I don't know, don't quote me on this, you probably know it better than me, but I think it's something like we are more closely associated in time with the T-Rex than the T-Rex was with, like, the Stegosaurus. But you always see the T-Rexes and Stegosauruses fight in old movies.
Right? Come on, guys.
I think that's the dinosaur that
get it together.
Right, you ding-dongs.
Yeah, I really don't remember much from it, though, because I think I just begrudgingly watched it the next 29 times.
I think this one also is one of those like movies with the trope that the mom dies.
Oh, always. Is it Disney?
No, this movie, I don't know who did. I think this is the same company who did Rock-a-Doodle.
Oh, wow.
Rock-a-Doodle.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's a Don Bluth film.
So any expectations I had just went completely out the window.
I mean, Don Bluth made a bunch of movies. Like, I know this movie was a big deal, but I think maybe we should just go into our listener comments.
I guess.
So I got one from Local Non-Union that says, so funny, my daughter just asked to watch this for the first time in months. Put it on and seconds later I come across this post. So we, send posts out to, hey, tell us what you remember. So I asked him, like, are you watching the first one? My sister loved these, so I saw the first 8. And he says, yes, the very first one, classic, with the fingers pointing up.
The fingers pointing up. I think that means number 1.
Yeah, I guess so.
I got from Rothrind, oh man, the squad. Littlefoot, Sarah, Ducky, and Spike.
He spelled Sarah wrong.
Oh yeah, it's supposed to be Sarah like Triceratops. Come on, Roth, get it together.
Our good friend BS and Craft Beer talks to us a lot. He says, I remember Petrie going, yep, yep, yep. In fact, I made that reference on my podcast, and and not worry about it. I think he means not worried about it. I think that was Ducky who did that. Am I wrong?
Way to call him out on
Sorry,
their
man.
typo. God, that's cold.
I thought that was Ducky. Maybe it was Petrie.
Yep. I don't know who it is, but I can hear the voice in
Yeah.
my head. Julie Mendez says, I'd constantly be looking for tree stars. Every time I was at the park until 5th grade, I still instantly think of this movie when I find one. Yeah, I think that has been pounded into our brains.
Yeah.
I do that too.
So, Wreck My Podcast, another friend of the show, said, been waiting for Land Before Time 35 to come out. Hear that one ends with the meteorite striking the Earth.
You are my people. Thank you.
Yeah, that would be pretty funny. I think that's how the TV show Dinosaurs ended.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that ended, or it was like the Ice Age or something.
I like that. I never watched that show, though.
I did.
What the hell?
Jim Henson did it. Of course I was going to watch it. That's everybody. Thank you guys for commenting. We really appreciate hearing what you guys remember at the show. It gives us some context on what we're about to watch and things to look for. So I'm going to look for Petrie or Ducky saying yep.
All right, let's do this.
Creators of An American Tale invite you to spend the holidays with Spike, Sarah, Petrie, Ducky,
Yep.
and Littlefoot as they share the world's first adventure, an adventure in the land of the dinosaurs.
Do not stop. We must stay together.
George Lucas and Steven Spielberg present a Don Bluth film, The Land Before Time, rated G. Starts Friday at theaters everywhere.
All right, we are back and I am angry. This was even worse than I remember. And now I'm really upset with all of my friends for making me watch this movie so many times.
The
Why?
animation style was really, like, there were times that the movie seemed like it was out of focus.
You did.
And
What
it was
the
grainy.
hell?
And the dinosaurs changed color throughout, and I'm sure part of it was, sunset, sunrise, all that stuff. But Littlefoot showed up as purple, brown, blue, orange, red, gray.
Right.
And Ducky, who's super green, same thing, showed up as like red, green, purple.
Oh, you guys. I don't even know. Oh, my God. It's so bad.
And what's weird is, I like to look up trivia stuff on it. This was a Lucas Spielberg presentation. It's the only time that they teamed up other than Indiana Jones.
Good.
It was a Don Bluth film, and
Don
it's the only one that Dom DeLuise wasn't in.
Nice.
Because he did Oliver and Company instead of this one.
The first scene opens up, and it looks like it could be really pretty, but I'm like, why is it grainy and out of focus?
Yeah, it really
I thought
was.
maybe it was just because of the version that they have on Netflix, but no.
The whole movie.
It all just looks like
And it's weird because it starts off, like, there's a narrator in this one. I don't believe that there's a narrator in any of the other.
It's
I don't
so
believe there's a
awkward.
narrator in any of the other ones. It's possible, I could be wrong, but starts off, he's like, there's only 2 types of dinosaurs. There's ones with flat teeth that eat leafy greens, and then there's the sharp tooth.
Right, it's in the vein of, like, the narration on Charlotte's Web.
Yeah, it's all, like, country bumpkin kind of narration. It's
Comforting elderly male voice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even know where to start with this. So, Littlefoot starts out gray.
Yeah.
I'm betting that a baby Apatosaurus would be one of the ugliest things we've ever seen. Just putting that out there.
And the thing that was weird about this movie, so this movie's not very long. It's 69 minutes. Which I was like, even before we watched this, I'm like, even if this is bad, it's going to be a breeze. It's going to go through
I
quick.
felt every one of those moments.
It felt longer. It did. But there's a lot of, like, waste. So the beginning doesn't show any of the dinosaurs. It's like a minute or two of, like, a body of water with, like, weird bugs and bacteria swimming in it. And then you see Ducky hatch first, and then it goes to Littlefoot. So it's like, it's a little disjointed right at the beginning.
Right. It's like they had an idea of what they wanted to narrate over that and then scrapped the whole thing.
Yeah, well, actually, this is my note. So it says, we see Ducky hatch, then we see Sarah hatch. Then she just starts ramming things, and then the narrator comes back and says, one herd only had a single baby, the last hope of their kind. If they only have one baby, how's that herd going to survive?
Right.
And then you see the egg fall off of something rolls down a cliff, bounces around. You see it cracking as it's falling.
I'm sorry, that baby would be dead.
Littlefoot should be dead, or at least severely handicapped.
I agree that Littlefoot should be dead.
Well, I mean, he is dead. This was millions of years ago.
I hate Littlefoot. No, I don't hate Littlefoot that much. I hate all the rest of them. Oh, jeez.
Should we summarize this movie?
Sure.
So basically, in a nutshell, the narrator says all the plant life is dying where all these dinosaurs are, so they need to migrate to the Great Valley. And that's pretty much it. They're trying to get there, and then there's like an earthquake that separates a lot of people, and somehow the only people who end up on one side of the earthquake are the children. Everybody else is on the other side.
Right.
And then they have to just get to the Great Valley, and then the whole time they're being stalked by, they just call them sharp teeth, but it's basically a T-Rex and
Sharp tooth.
And then at the end of the movie, they get there, and everything's great.
So it seems like they've never experienced this before when this first earthquake happens.
I mean, they are children.
I mean, none of the dinosaurs, because their parents are still there
Right.
at the beginning. And it's very convenient, the timing of this first earthquake, in that it happens right when they're being chased by the T-Rex, but also it opens up like a volcano right in the middle of everything, and there's this... I'm having trouble finding my words because this film is so bad.
And it's slow. Like, it was 23 minutes into the movie before the sharp tooth showed up and really set the movie into motion. Like, 23 minutes into a 69-minute movie is when the actual plot starts to kick in.
Right. Yeah, it completely drags in the beginning. You're distracted by how bad the animation is and the fact that all of the main characters are repeatedly
Racist.
changing color. They are all racist. I was hoping that there would be a little bit more in that vein of that theme. But then, they all just team up to be racist against the T-Rex.
I don't know if it's racist against the T-Rex.
And why is everyone giving Sharptooth a hard time?
Because he's eating them.
We understand this is the circle of life. You have to know when you're food, so don't go traipsing around seeking out the sleeping T-Rex and then start harassing him. Like, Sarah should have been dead too. He should have just eaten her. She sneaks up on him when he's sleeping, starts ramming him. Like, why is the T-Rex always getting a bad rap? And why is the T-Rex always the villain?
Because they're
rude.
The carnivores, honey.
So?
Why was Jaws the villain? He's just eating people because he was hungry.
I just threw up in my mouth when you said hungry.
So the thing that's weird is, like, to get on that racism track again.
Wait, no. I'm not done with this T-Rex thing.
Okay, go ahead.
So not only is the T-Rex always the villain...
Sharptooth.
Sharptooth is the villain. Okay, why is there only one T-Rex?
Well, there's only one Sharptooth.
There's only one T-Rex in this entire
territorial.
Film. And how do you know that?
Jurassic Park taught me that.
Are birds territorial?
Some of them, yeah. Condors.
Anyway.
Owls.
This T-Rex is the villain. The rest of the main characters, the rest of the dinosaurs, all talk, but the T-Rex never talks.
Maybe he speaks a different language.
Why do they all get humanized, and the T-Rex isn't? Just because he's big and ugly and has little arms?
And they make fun of his little arms.
Maybe he's artistic and sensitive. Maybe he wanted to be a painter, but he can't.
Like Hitler?
Because he has tiny arms. Anyway.
But to get to that racism thread, like, very early on, Littlefoot's, like, walking around, like, hey, other kids, and immediately Sarah is like, we don't talk to long necks, back off. And then...
Well, no, Sarah wants to play with him, and they start playing, and then Sarah's dad...
Oh, that's right.
He's the real redneck jerk in this situation. He's like, we don't play with long necks.
And says they have little brains.
And then she repeats it, because she's a turd too. She's a white supremacist little turd.
And then later on, they're playing in the swamp, and she's like, we don't play with longs, and they're fighting over who gets to harass a frog that they call a hopper. And then they kind of play together, and then that's when the whole dinosaur thing happens. But throughout the movie, Sarah isolates herself several times. So right after the big earthquake, Littlefoot sees her and is like, hey, like, we should work together. And she's like, no, like, I'm going to go do it on my own. We don't need to talk to you. Three horns don't talk to long necks. And then he's like, well, at least we'll have company. She's like, I'll find my sisters. I don't need you. And then Littlefoot's a jerk to Ducky. So he's just like crying in the pond. And Ducky comes up and he's like, long necks don't talk to whatever you are. And she's like, I'm a long neck, and tries to like say that they have similar features. And she goes, but I'm just a big mouth. What? Like, I thought they were going to be called swimmers or something, and she's like a water dinosaur. But no, they call them, and then apparently they call them big mouths throughout.
Yeah, it's odd. I don't understand. Oh, man. So, the one thing that this film does have going for it is the voice actors did a pretty good job working with what they had.
Right, I agree.
But then at random points, they would still make dinosaur noises.
Yeah, they'd be like when they're like fighting and
it
stuff.
was a little weird, but at the very beginning of the film, Littlefoot's born, and then he's yawning, but he's
making
just like
baby noises.
He's making this weird noise, like. You're like, is he okay?
Well, no, he rolled down a cliff.
Mentally slow?
Did
his brain get rattled from that?
I did like this interaction when Petrie first introduces himself. Like, they're trying to eat this like weird tree, and Petrie flies out and he lands on Littlefoot, and he's like, "You've got a nice flathead, Flathead." And he's like, "My name is Littlefoot, not Flathead."
I feel like this movie taught a bunch of kids how to be bullies.
Right. Well, one of the things that I did think is kind of interesting about this movie is all the kids and all the dinosaurs are, you like look at what type of dinosaur they are: long neck, swimmer, big mouth, three horn, sharp tooth, whatever, right? And there are times where they're like, "Hey, three horn, come over here and play," before they knew each other's names. That's what kids did on the playground. If there was a kid in a blue shirt, you just like, "Hey, blue kid."
Hey, gimpy leg.
Whoa. I don't think we did that. But I definitely remember going to the park or the playground as a kid and seeing my little brother go and see a kid in a black shirt who happened to be black. And he's like, "Hey, black kid, come here." But he meant the shirt. "Hey, blue kid, you want to play? We're going to play tag with the black kid." And he meant the shirt. And like, that's what kids do. They just find like an obvious descriptor of somebody until they know their name. Just say, "Hey, that kid, get over here. Hey, fat kid."
I actually did hear that one on the playground one time.
They don't mean it to be mean. They just like don't know the kid's name, so they're just trying to get a hold of them.
No, one time I was on a playground and my friend was like, "Hey, fat kid, come over." And they started walking over like, "Oh my god, you can't call him fat kid." And the kid walks over and he's like,
"Hey guys."
He's like, "It's okay, I am fat."
Oh man.
Kids don't have any qualms about, like, they know exactly what they look like,
and
it's only
shame until
adults make it weird. Like, I remember a close friend of mine got bras like really early, and I'm like, "How come you have training bras already?" She's like, "My mom says it's because I'm fat."
But it's true, like, little kids don't have shame until maybe 5th, 6th, 7th grade, and that's all
true.
taught from adults.
Anyway, yeah, this movie, it touches on some important issues of, playing with other people even though they're different from you.
Even though they're fat.
But then dehumanizes the T-Rex.
The other thing that was weird about this movie, and like I think after I brought it up, you summarized it perfectly. I said, there's no real plot to this movie. Like, everything just happens for no reason. Like you mentioned, like, there's just an earthquake, and then there's just a volcano, and then like there's a point where they randomly find like a series of trees, but then as soon as they find these trees, a bunch of long necks come and eat all of it, and it's like
a video game.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like all these things happen out of either convenience or just we need something bad to happen to them, so they have to keep going to the Great Valley.
The writer giveth and they taketh away.
Right. And you know what else really bothered me? Littlefoot's supposed to be the most tolerant one, like, "Hey, let's work together, guys." He's the leader. But he's really insensitive to Petrie not being able to fly.
I know.
Like, he makes fun of him for not being able to fly. He tries to force him to fly by pushing him up a tree. and letting him fall. And it isn't until like his life is in danger when he's about to fall in a Sharptooth's mouth that he's able to figure out how to fly. But they're constantly being like, "You're a dumb flyer because you can't fly. You're the worst kind of flyer." Like they're constantly making fun of Petrie, and Petrie is like probably the most loyal of the group.
Right.
Like there's a point when Sarah leaves the group like 3 times in this movie.
It's because she's a jerk.
She is a jerk, but then there's one point where
Racist little white supremacist jerk.
there's a point where she's
Triceratops supremacist.
She's trying to leave. Like she calls Littlefoot's mom stupid. She's like, she's just a stupid long neck.
I mean,
and you're a stupid long neck. If it wasn't for Littlefoot's mom, Sarah would be dead. She saved them.
That's true.
So she owes Littlefoot's mom her life, but so they fight and then she leaves and Petrie tries to stick with Littlefoot, but Littlefoot's like just being a little stubborn. He's like running up a hill and Petrie can't keep up, so he defaults and goes with the rest of the group. Like Petrie was the most loyal one. And he's the only one that tries to, when their plan at the end to kill the T-Rex goes south, he's the only one who actually like goes to try to save Ducky because they used her as bait. Like Petrie's the best of them all. Katrina's pointing to her foot throbbing. Like there's something in her foot that's just pulsating.
It's like there's a little gnome in my foot doing Morse code.
Gnome.
Anyway, yeah. I mean, you kind of think that they would just stick together from the get-go out of survival.
And also, they barely make it to the Great Valley just by dumb luck. Because they're constantly going back and forth. Like, they find it when they say Sarah's going the wrong way, but Littlefoot goes to go find them to save them and make sure that they're okay. But then they just end up at the Great Valley. Like, they didn't really follow the directions.
Right. Well, the mother's directions, like, as
Follow
she's
the
dying, follow the... what is it?
The bright circle in the sky.
The bright circle in the sky.
Which moves.
You'd think they would have gotten there by instinct.
Well, and then she does give them other markers, like you'll find a rock that looks like a long neck, and you'll find the smoking mountain.
How would she know that? So in the beginning of the film, he asks her, and I noted this because it was awkward, have you ever seen the Great Valley? And then there's an insanely long, awkward pause, and she slowly turns around and goes, no.
Well, and then
That's it.
And then like the grandfather or the grandmother explains like basically the concept of faith. Like you just have, sometimes you don't see with your eyes, sometimes you just see with your heart or something along those lines. And it was a really long-winded response. But I think what it's supposed to be is some dinosaur at some point had seen the Great Valley and they kind of like passed along, hey, if you guys ever run out of food here, there's a ton of food over there.
Right. Yeah, that was interesting though, that long, awkward pause.
Yeah.
So I really feel like maybe they had a different script for this film, or they
did
cut out a ton, because there are parts where it seems like they animated it and then they didn't want to scrap it because, you know, if you see someone moving at a certain speed and then you cut to another scene and they're too far ahead in that position, it looks awkward.
Right.
So it's like specifically when Littlefoot's asking her that question, they then leave in this entire animation sequence of her turning her neck and pulling her head around close to him and then just saying no. So you'd think they would have added in more dialogue so that you see Littlefoot's mouth moving and then he's still talking that entire time that she's turning and then she says no, but no, it's just super long, awkward pause. And that happens a lot this movie.
They cut 19 minutes from this movie. So this
Holy
movie,
cow.
What's weird is even for a kid's movie in the late 80s, early 90s, most of them were like 88 minutes, 90 to 96 minutes. Like they were all about an hour and a half. This movie was barely over an hour, including the credits.
And it takes 20 minutes to get going.
Right. They cut 19 minutes out of this where apparently there were several more encounters with the shark tooth, and George Lucas and Steven Spielberg were like, it's a little too dark for kids, so they cut it. So Don Bluth says he still has a cut of the original.
Oh dear God.
But there was a point where this movie was going to be a silent movie as well. But that's what George Lucas and Steven Spielberg wanted. But people were like, yeah, kids aren't going to watch.
It's way too pretentious for children.
Exactly. Oh, man. And, like, imagine if this was a silent movie. How much harder it's going to be. Because I did laugh at certain parts of the movie. Like, I did like some of the dialogue. Like, Sarah, there's one point where she thinks she finds the Great Valley, where she finds that tree. She's like, I found it. I found it. All kind of like sing-songy. And then like some of her stuff, she has this like weird cadence where every like third word, she like elongates it, where she's like, I'll find it on my own kind of thing. Like she does that a lot. Or when I find my sisters, like.
It's a snotty cadence.
Exactly.
Yeah. So how many times did an earthquake just inconveniently strike and then open up lava flows in this movie?
At least 3 times.
Yeah.
And the thing is, sometimes...
And it's almost always when there's a T-Rex around, right?
Well, sometimes I think it's meant to imply that the T-Rex is so big and stomping around that it actually causes little ones.
The T-Rex is really uncoordinated as well.
Yes.
And, like, trips and slides down hills constantly.
Constantly.
I mean, he got those little arms.
Yeah, he doesn't have anything to
I feel really
balance himself.
sorry for Sharptooth.
At one point, they make fun of his disability.
He's just doing Sharptooth things.
They are like, we need to kill this Sharptooth once and for all, kind of thing. And they're like, oh, there's like this little pond right here that it's shallow here, but really deep there. So Ducky, you need to go be bait and get him here. And then we're going to push this big rock, which will make him fall into the deep part. And he won't be able to swim because he's got those little tiny arms. So they kill him.
Dude, okay, so Sharptooth seems to just be settling into his own routine, trying to live his life. And then these kids keep, like, bursting onto the scene and messing stuff up. Like, how do we know that Sharptooth even eats other dinosaurs? Maybe...
He took a chunk out of the mom.
Maybe she was, like, in his
mouth?
His stuff. She was up in his grill.
Up in his mouth?
Up in his grill making trouble. No, I feel sorry for the T-Rex.
I don't.
He's just aggressive. He's doing T-Rex things and minding his own business. He's obviously set in his routine because he wakes up one morning and these little turds have been sleeping in his footprint. He walks over, steps in the same footprint again.
Destroys the tree star.
I mean, clearly, he's just going out to get the morning paper like he does every morning.
He's OCD. He stands at the same spot. He keeps
trying to get away from them, and they keep following him towards the Great Valley, and I just feel sorry for him.
You kind of sound like Alex from Remake Rewind. He always says, like, oh, the bad guy really wasn't that bad. Like, there's, in our Footloose episode, he goes and says, this guy named Chuck, who, like, beats the romantic lead of the movie, like, punches her. And he's like, he really wasn't that bad. I'm like, he punched a woman.
I think face punching should be equal opportunity. If a woman has it coming, she has it coming. What?
She didn't have it coming, though.
I'm a feminist.
No, I'm all on, like, you should treat people the same, but, like, in this particular thing, like, that was wrong. Like, he's done it, like, 3 times where, like, the bad guy did something, like, outrageous, and he's like, I kind of get it.
You know who should have been the villain? Petrie swoops in looking like a villain.
Yeah, I mean, he was just hanging out in a tree, and Littlefoot starts, like, yanking on the tree.
Is Petrie male?
Yes.
Oh.
Petrie's male. I'm pretty sure Petrie and Ducky get together at some point.
Maybe Petrie is gender non-conforming.
Nah, he's
They
a
get
dude.
together? That's interspecies erotica.
Bigfoot and Sarah get together.
What?
No, I'm just kidding. That doesn't happen. I know in one of the movies, a female longneck does show up, and Sarah does get jealous.
Oh.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But is it an Apatosaurus? Could be a Brachiosaurus.
I don't know. I don't remember.
Brontosaurus still a thing?
So
there's some conflict, right? They're not sure if it's just another species missing a bone.
For a long time,
or bigger.
There was a Brontosaurus and a Apatosaurus, and then they were like, no, they're the same. A Brontosaurus and a Apatosaurus, but the Apatosaurus is a much bigger dinosaur. So now they're trying to say that maybe they are 2 separate genuses again. And then you have the Brachiosaur. The Brachiosaur is a completely different one. So
Genuses? Geni. Penises? Peni.
But the Brachiosaur has a longer neck, and his front legs are much longer than the back legs, where the Apatosaurus and the Brachiosaurus have similar shape.
Brachiosaurus?
Brachiosaurus is the one that has long front legs and
I've
a longer
never
neck.
actually heard it said out loud.
Brachiosaurus.
Brachio.
What's weird is
Somebody tell
brachia
us.
is like an arm, is what that means. So it's weird.
Brachio?
Yeah.
think it's Brachiosaurus.
But anyway, Brachiosaurus, whatever it is.
And we're just going middle of the Brachio.
Has longer front legs and a longer neck, where the Apatosaurus and the Brontosaurus have all 4 legs are about the same.
All right, then. So Kathleen Kennedy worked on this film.
She's getting outed of Star Wars.
What did she do on this film?
She's a producer. She's been working with Steven Spielberg for 30, 40 years.
Right. I have decided that this film is her fault, and she should have been fired back in 1988.
Yeah, she ruined Star Wars.
Oh, whatever.
Actually, I don't mind what's going on with Star Wars right now.
You can't just cater to whatever the fans want, because then it's boring and predictable.
Well, and every Star Wars fans have their own headcanon.
Anyway.
And what they think should happen. So you can't please everybody.
Screw you, Kathleen Kennedy.
Yep.
The Land Before Time was
Stop saying that word.
A poop.
I haven't had to censor 2 words in this one. I don't have any. The only other note that I have is it ends with the narrator saying, "And they stayed in the valley for generation after generation." And it's like, I think in the 4th or 5th movie, there's like a drought and they leave the Great Valley. So the sequels make this one wrong.
Great.
You dingus.
Great.
I don't have anything else.
I don't have anything else. I
Was your
hated this
childhood
movie. I feel validated.
And I know that's important to you.
It is. I need a lot of validation.
I'm going to say childhood ruined for me. I remember liking this movie. I do remember the animation not being great, because at that point, when I saw this movie for the first time, Aladdin was my favorite movie, and I was used to like the Disney animation.
Yeah, but even when we revisit those, the animation is not great. Like in Little Mermaid, and
her head changes sizes.
And this was like the highest grossing animated film until The Little Mermaid.
Right. But honestly, that might just be because this movie was so short they can cram in 2 or 3 extra showings a day.
Maybe this film was the low point in animation. I'm just gonna call it. This film was the low point in animation.
Yeah, I'm gonna say childhood ruined. And what's funny is, we had a lot of comments. We didn't read every comment that we got on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Gmail, whatever. A lot of
Someone
people,
emailed a comment?
Not this particular one, but I have had email comments.
That's weird.
A lot of people really have fond memories of this movie, and I was telling people at work that I was going to be covering it. Everyone's like, "Oh, I'm going to listen to this episode." I'm like, "What? You're not listening already? You guys are jerks." But a lot of people are really excited about this and have really fond memories. And I went into this thinking, like, I know the animation's not great, but I think it's going to be a good movie and it's going to be fun. And I did not enjoy this.
I think people just like Tree Stars and Ducky, and that is it.
Yeah.
All right. What are we talking about next time?
I'm just going to do the theme song and see if people figure it out. It's Doug.
You actually got closer to the melody that time. What's that?
That's the end of it.
Oh.
But yeah, we're going to cover Doug. I'm really excited.
I'm excited too. Nickelodeon Doug, because Disney Doug can burn in hell.
Yeah, I'm a little worried about covering it because I've put off doing this episode for a long time because I don't want to ruin it.
Nah, it's going to be good.
I hope so.
It's going to be good.
All right, so where can our listeners find you, Katrina?
I'm all over the internet at Katrinaosity.
Check out her YouTube.
We have a YouTube as well.
We have a YouTube as well, and we had a giveaway. So it ended by the time that this episode comes out a week ago. And we did have a winner, and we actually read her comment on the air this episode. Miss Julie Mendez won, so she's going to get an autographed Blu-ray for a movie that we covered for Ruin My Childhood, an autographed Blu-ray for Remake Rewind, and she's going to get some of Dustin's artwork.
You win!
You win! Yay! But thank you for subscribing to our YouTube channel. So right now we don't have a custom URL. We still need a few more subscribers, but link to our YouTube channel will be in this description. It's also on our website. It's also on Twitter, Instagram. You guys can figure it out. But that's it. Thank you guys for listening.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.